Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be doing a first quarter check-in. So at the end of 2023, I made a video with reading goals and channel goals and some personal goals, and it is time to do a check-in on that. It's been the first quarter of the year, and it seems like a good point to do that. So let's go ahead and start off with some of my reading goals. My goal for the year was to read 40 books, which would be around 20,000 pages. That was kind of my rough goal. And so far, I have read 13 books, which puts me at about 29% of the way there. But the more important number is the page count, because you can read a bunch of short books and it can really bump up those numbers. But I am also on track for the pages. I have read, it varies depending on the version of the book you read, but I have read 5,124 pages, which is 25.64%. So I am right on track for that. I will say my average star ranking is definitely a little lower than I would like it to be. It is currently sitting at a 3.27. So I would like that to be probably closer to a 3.75. I always think of reading how I rank my books to be kind of a bell curve. So most things are going to end up being slightly above the middle because I'm going out of my way to read things that I like. So it's going to be slightly skewed on a more positive side. And right now we are unfortunately on a more negative skew. I have had 3 2-stars, 3 3-stars, 4 4-stars, and 1 5-star book, which is nice because 5 stars are hard for me to come by. I think I went like 8 months without one, so it's nice to finally be back and have one on the list. My next goal was to read one nonfiction novel this year, which I think will be the first one I have read in 3 years, and I have already checked that off my list. I read The Narrative of a Life of Frederick Douglass, and that was a fantastic read. I really enjoyed it. It reads so easy, and I don't know, it's a real inspiration to read. You see the struggles that he went through, how he overcame, teaching yourself how to read and write, and, the horrific situations he was put in over and over again, and somehow still pushed through and persevered. It's a great tale to read. I want to read the other 2. He has 2 more autobiographies that I would like to read at some point. Obviously, they kind of cover the same thing, but then expand upon certain aspects of it, and obviously more of his life because he wrote them as he got older and older. So I would definitely like to do that. And there's actually another called What If. I read that original book, I don't know, maybe in 2021, and I know there's at least one more out, What If 2, and it's really just kind of a fun scientific novel where a scientist is answering questions and trying to come up with the most absurd answers and scenarios about them. I don't have a good example off the top of my head, but that was a lot of fun when I read that. And so I would like to try to maybe squeeze in 1 or 2 more this year. Another goal I had for myself was to try to read outside of a US/UK author. And I will be honest, I have only done that with one of the books I have read this year. So I don't know if I should count that kind of behind pace or right on pace. I think it should probably be maybe 1 or 2 higher. I should probably be somewhere around the 3 book mark. But for whatever reason, I really thought it would kind of happen without me focusing and pushing on making it happen. And it looks like I'm just, and it's not a surprise, I'm an English reader and speaker. It makes sense that most of the things I'm going to be looking at are from the US/UK. So it looks like I might need to push myself a little bit outside of that zone and really research some stuff that is outside of that, because I feel like 1 is a little light. Next up, I had to read more sci-fi. And last year I read a decent amount of sci-fi, but it was mostly all wrapped up in The Expanse. So I read most of The Expanse last year, and so that was pretty much all the sci-fi I read. So I kind of wanted to branch out and experience it a little bit more. It is a genre that I used to say I think the best of sci-fi is my favorite compared to the best of fantasy. If you look at my top 10 books of all time, that would bear to be true. I will say recently, it's not really been the case. A lot of the sci-fi I have read, I have not enjoyed all that much. I will say I counted it as 3.5 books because one of these sci-fi books I read, it's hard to really call it a true sci-fi novel. And that book would be Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. To me, while it is kind of a sci-fi, it's not sci-fi in the same way I think you would consider a lot of other sci-fi books. It is taking place in space and everything, but it is really much more of a horror psychological thriller with a tinge of sci-fi. The real plot of that book could have happened really anywhere. The fact that it's happening in space was kind of inconsequential to what's going on. There is some other elements about it that maybe make it fit into that genre a little bit, but it wasn't really all that important. The other ones being Tau Zero by Paul Anderson, Elder Race by Adrian Joukowsky, and Blind Sight by Peter Watts. And unfortunately, 2 of those books I did not enjoy very much, and yeah, that is part of why my ranking for the year is a little bit lower, because some of the sci-fi reads I have picked out that I thought I would enjoy. Some of these are heavy hitters for the genre, especially Blindsight by Peter Watts, and unfortunately it just did not click with me, so I am looking forward to continuing my journey, exploring more sci-fi. I mean, it's a huge genre, so I know there's going to be some stuff out there that I will come around to enjoy. Next up, my goal was to read more classics, and so far this is pretty much a dud. The only thing I can count as a classic, I defined it as something that was 1953 and earlier, and the only book I have read that fits that time frame is the Frederick Douglass autobiography, and I don't know if you really count that as a classic in the way I was thinking of it. I was really thinking of it, of some of those old, like Charles Dickens works, those kinds of things. Not that that book doesn't deserve to be in that category, it absolutely does, but I don't think it really fits the theme or the feel I was going for when I wanted to read more classics. So this looks like another one of those things that maybe I can pair it with reading outside of the UK and US authors and knock out two birds with one stone. Pick up some classics maybe from Russia or some Middle Eastern authors that have some classic writings. If you have any good suggestions, let me know. I would like to branch out and experience some things. I do think reading some of these classic works from different areas can show you a lot of things about how the culture of that time and place were, and I think it's a really important thing to branch out and not be so Euro-American centric. I think it would be a good thing to explore. Next up, I had to read a wider variety of authors, and I can pretty proudly say that I have done a pretty good job at this. 6 of those 13 books were a first-time author to me, so that's right around 50%. I'm pretty happy with that. I think part of it is I'm not just reading Brandon Sanderson this year. If you don't know, last year I read all of the Cosmere, so like 30-something books, and so that obviously took up just so much of my time, and then outside of that, I was still finishing up The Expanse and the James Bond novels, so those 3 authors took up so much of my time last year that I just felt like I didn't get the opportunity to expand and experience other stories, and so this year has really been a fulfilling experience of getting to experience a lot of different writing. It has opened my eyes to some new prose that I have just absolutely loved, even though I have technically read the author I'm thinking of when I said that. But just getting into different writers and seeing different writing styles and how they're telling stories, it's nice to get outside of the Sanderson, James S.A. Corey, and Ian Fleming bubble, because I was just so entrenched in those books last year. It's nice to kind of branch out, and I look forward to continuing trying new authors and hopefully finding some new ones that I absolutely love. Another goal I had was to use the library more, and I can't say that I have really used it anymore, but I will say I'm still using it. I'm probably using it about at the same amount, if not a little bit more than I was last year, but I would like to pick that up even more. I think part of the reason I haven't is because it is normally the place where I was reading a lot of comics and manga. I would get it just from the library because I don't really like collecting it and it takes up a lot of room and everything. And I haven't been reading it that much, which we'll get to in my next section. But I think I'm at an okay place with it. I wish I'd used the library a little bit more than I did, and I think a lot of us could really benefit from going to the library and exploring that way, and so it is going to be something that I push myself to do just a little bit more. And I already kind of hinted at this next one, but my next one was for specifically manga, and it was just to kind of get back into reading it. I don't know if manga is going to be something I'd spend a whole lot of time talking about on my channel. As much as I enjoy it personally, I don't know if I have the want to really like go over and review it here on the channel, but I do enjoy reading it, and for the latter part of 2023, I just completely stopped. I kind of caught up on a lot of series, and it didn't really make me want to go and try a bunch of new stuff. And unfortunately, I have done a little bit more reading this year, but in general, I'm still way far behind on where I would like to be with reading a lot of manga, and so that is something that maybe I can start to pick up a little bit here. I will say I just have really been enjoying reading like books, and so I think that has maybe pushed manga out a little bit, and so maybe in Q2 of 2024 I'll pick it up a little bit more. One Piece is apparently, I'm right at where it gets good, so maybe that will really kick me into wanting to read that, because obviously that's a huge long series that I can binge a lot of, so we'll see if that increases. I'm hoping it does, because there are some amazing stories. Some of my favorite things, Berserk, for example, is a manga, and it's just a genre I have kind of been ignoring recently, so it should pick back up hopefully here soon. Next up, my goals are related to the channel, and my first one being keep doing reviews but do them better. And I don't think I've really hit my stride 100% there yet. I think they have gotten slightly better, and I think I've kind of found a formula that I think works better for me and how I want to talk and review books. So we'll see. Hopefully I can progress there a little bit more, because I enjoy talking about books, but I don't think I've always done the best job. I think sometimes I am so worried about any kind of spoiler that I'm not able to talk about the book enough to even really get the point across about why I did or didn't like a book. So that's something I'm going to continue working on. I think it will be good for me and good for anybody watching those reviews. The other two goals I had for the channel were to change up the microphone I use. I'm not a big fan of this one. I still haven't found one that I really like and connect with, so we're still rocking this one for now. But the other one was to change up my lighting, and I did that very recently. Some lights went on sale that I had been looking at, so I got those, and I think it looks better. I think it gives it a different kind of feel. So yeah, I think it's been a good upgrade. Let me know what you think, if you even could tell, or if you don't like it or do like it. I'm curious on what people think. And then the last thing I mentioned in that video were just some very minor life goals that I had for this year, and the first one was being to spend less time on my phone, and I will say that that has really been a complete failure. I think I did okay at that for a little bit, and then recently I have just been spending and just wasting so much time on my phone. So this is a good reminder to get back to that and not ignore the app timers that I have set, and to just not waste time. I could be reading instead of scrolling on my phone for absolutely no reason. So I need to definitely work on that a little bit. I think it would be massively beneficial for myself. And then the last goal I had was to compete in a strongman show and a powerlifting meet. And I can say that I have done that, well, one of those two things. I competed in and won my first strongman competition 2 weeks ago. It was a really fun experience. I had a good time. Maybe if I'm feeling brave enough, I will add those to the end of this video and you can see me do the lifts. It was a overhead medley, a deadlift medley, loading kegs over a bar. They call it a safe press. It's an overhead movement, and then a Cohen's wheel. And I had a lot of fun doing it. So much fun, in fact, that I think I'm going to change this goal just a little bit and maybe do another strongman meet or competition instead of a powerlifting meet. Not that I don't enjoy powerlifting. I still enjoy those lifts. But doing a whole prep and training for a meet specifically just doesn't really appeal to me. The strongman stuff has been so much more entertaining, and I have really enjoyed training for that and getting to try so many new things. So even if I don't do another one, I'm gonna count this goal as being accomplished. Since I won my competition, I can no longer do novice shows. So I think there are a couple events that I need to get stronger in to really feel confident in going to an open show, but I think it would be fun to do. So that's probably something in my future. Maybe I can find some for later in the year, and I can really train, just get stronger overall, and do one more. Maybe even try to qualify for like a regional or national level show, but that might actually end up being more of a 2025 goal. We'll have to see how some of my training goes for that. But that is my quarterly check-in. I think overall the first quarter has been a pretty good success. There are definitely some things that I need to work on, really need to stay off my phone. But let me know how you're reading goals, any other goals you have. Like, this is a good time to check in. It's not too late to reset and restart a lot of these goals. You can look back, see what's working, what's not working, and make changes now. You don't have to wait again until the new year. So definitely let me know any of your thoughts down below in the comments. And as always, have a good one.